everybody. Welcome to Monday Night Therapy. Our subject tonight is the universe. Is it conscious, or is it just a bunch of dark matter neutrinos floating around without any life whatsoever? Or we could talk about this frickin' Indiana game. Okay, Connor joins us. Minnie joins us. It's the gang's all here, and it's just, let's just take questions. I prepared nothing. I was overwhelmed by the shit ton of comments that I got on the reaction videos. I'm sure Connor has tons of them. Minnie looks nice. Look at what she's wearing.
Minnie looks
wearing
great.
A nice Corn Crazed. Do you still sell merch?
Once in a while. Depends on my mood if I'm responding to DMs that day or not. But yeah.
Okay, what's going on?
First question. I have a question for you, actually. I wanted to lead with this.
Does it have to do with the universe?
It has to do with Nebraska football, and the worst part about Nebraska football right now, which is the offense. More specifically, it has to do with Nebraska's offensive coordinator. His name is Marcus Satterfield, and he's been given a leash by Matt Rule. And I want to know how long that leash is. And I want to know more specifically what's going to happen or what's going to take for him to keep his job.
Win the rest of the games except Ohio State and produce probably 150 yards rushing, 24 to 28 points a game, and at least a minimum of 250 yards passing a game, all of which seem to be impossible.
Yeah, that's aggressive. I was going to say, I think he needs to win 2 of the last 4. However, they need to average 21 points a game. That's kind of what I'm feeling the vibe is over there.
That's too low.
All right.
This guy, look at our offense.
Hey, I'm not saying that I believe that's what he should be held to. I think he should be held to a higher standard, just like you said. I just want to know what you think is going on inside Mr. Rule's mind, because Coach Rule is the one who's going to make this final decision. And although there are 9 million people on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, TikTok, every other website you can possibly imagine saying fire Satterfield, they've been saying it for about 6 months, by the way. Although everyone else is saying it, what's Rule going to do? Because he's shown that he's loyal. I don't want to say to a fault like Lincoln Riley is, but he is loyal to his coaches.
Okay, here's the thing. There's comments, the comments on the reaction video, and Bo Pelini's got to come up and all that shit. Bo Pelini failed as a coach because he wouldn't change. That's really what it was. If you remember the Bo Pelini eras, every time Nebraska played a good team, they beat the living shit out of us because his defense wasn't really that good. And when anybody asked him, hey, maybe you should change your defense, he'd get all defensive about my defense is fine. In other words, he wouldn't change. And that's why he's not a coach today. And these next few games are going to be, is Matt Rule going to be willing to change to be successful? I know there's a lot of people that are probably going to go, oh, well, he's going to get a big payout. What does he care? Well, I don't know about you, but I have a certain amount of pride in my work where I like to be successful. I get paid doing projects, and I do get paid for IT. I get paid if I do a shitty job, but I don't want to do a shitty job. I don't know, because I have pride in my work.
That all makes sense. I agree with you. If
Matt Rule has any pride in his work, he's going to have to look at this and say, good God, this guy we can't run the ball. Why can't we run the ball?
Well, okay, hold on. That's another question that people have been bringing up. Is it a Satterfield issue that they can't run the ball, or is there an issue with the offensive line coach? Because now it sounds like every coach is up on the table. Who's going to go first? First off, I know who's going first. It's Ed Foley. And if Ed Foley doesn't go first, then Matt Rule is showing some Scott Frost tendencies, which I don't believe he's going to. I believe Rule is wise enough to cut ties with him. I don't know if it'll be during the season, after the season, but he's the first one. Then the question is, what about Raiola? And there are so many other logistics that go in with the Raiolas. So I don't even think that's up for debate. But would you credit the offensive struggles, at least in the run game, to Raiola and the offensive line, or to Satterfield and his scheme?
Well, they have to both kind of work together. I will say this. I think the number one thing I saw on Twitter and in the comments after the game is the number one question I think that people have is this. Why can't we turn our program around in a year like Indiana did? And the direct answer to that is because we hired a coach who has a 3-year plan. Okay? That's it. We hired a coach who has proven that in 3 years he can build a winning team. Not just a winning team, like have a winning record, but a pretty good record. And he's done it twice before throughout the Carolina stuff because, come on, who was going to hold the Carolina Panthers against anybody? But the reason. The other reason why you couldn't turn Nebraska around in a year is because our weakest points when what's the guy's name we hired? Matt Rule came in. Our weakest points on our team that we worried the most about were offensive and defensive line. Those are the two places where you can't make up shit in the portal. You can get some portal people, but you're not going to get the best ones because everybody wants offensive and defensive linemen. Now, to answer your question, within one season, our defense stopped being an issue. And I know everybody's like, oh, we gave up 56 points. Well, we fucking quit and came apart against Indiana. It shouldn't happen, but that shit happens. We're still in the top 20 in scoring defense, believe it or not. But up until that point, we hadn't given up a rushing TD. The point is this. Within one season, we fixed our defensive line issues. Within one season, we did not fix our offensive line issues. And I don't think that
you know what's crazy? Wait. Pause on that note. Think about this and add this into your thought. They didn't have to add anyone from the portal to fix their defensive line issues. They were ready to go out the gate, and they incorporated true freshmen as edge rushers or a transfer in James Williams from junior college. But the offensive line on the other side did bring in two transfers. So take it for what it's worth.
Plus, I mean, the other thing is with Rule, he's a development guy more than just a portal guy. And now everybody's going to look at Signetti and say, oh, well, we can turn this shit around in a year. I don't want to sound like I'm offering excuses for this, but I think the offensive line is still an issue in terms of talent. I think that what we do today, we picked up a 4-star offensive tackle. So, I mean, there are signs that, what's that?
I heard they paid him.
Well, they're going to have to pay. That's the name of the game now.
Joke, John. It's because of his quote. It's because of his quote where he said, I'm going to Nebraska because they're offering the most money.
Is that what he said?
Yes, it was legendary. And it was all over social media because that was his number one point in why he's picking Nebraska.
Well, then I guess then that works.
Respect.
I mean, you know what? If I was 18 years old and coming out of high school and somebody says, what do you want?
Money.
Yeah, I want a car. What do you mean? Well, a nice car, a house, some chicks. What, money? You're going to give me money? Shit.
Exactly.
I'm just surprised that nobody's talking about the defense this past game.
Because I'll tell you my thought on the defense really quick, Minnie. The defense was terrible. They looked like trash the entire way through, but the offense did them absolutely no favors. And I think because the defense has been more consistent up to this point, they have a longer leash and we're more lenient with them. The offense has regressed since the season started. It started really hot. However, they were playing against really weak opponents. They played against Colorado, who has a 5-2 record right now, I believe, or 4-3, whatever it is. And they were impressive in that game. But outside of that, going into the Big Ten, they've been pretty dominant. The offense has been weak. The defense was dominant. So because the offense has been so weak and just trickling down, people are like, what the hell is going on with these guys? And so all of the attention now is on this, not even a slow, it's been a fast decline. And we want answers as to why playing mediocre Big Ten teams in Purdue and Rutgers are still resulting in only, 14 points a game.
Okay, we want higher scoring games then. Is that what you're saying?
We need more offensive points. And the defense, although the defense could have held IU to 35 if they wanted to, because they could have. The reason it wasn't even the defense. The offense forced so many things against Indiana. That's why it got out of control. It was more so Rules just letting Raiola do his thing. It turned into 5 turnovers. And yeah, I didn't worry about the defense and all the points they gave up. It's the offense that needs to produce more.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mike gives us a super chat. Thanks for $5. Nothing against Rule, but 15 plus years of the same issues is getting ridiculous. Well, the bottom line is you had 15 years of not very good personnel decisions. That's really what it is. I know people have this shit about, oh, we shouldn't have left the Big 12, but come on. That is not, we're not failing in the Big 10 because we don't belong in the Big 10. We're failing in the Big 10 because we haven't made the right personnel decisions. Well, and, the book's still out on Matt Rule. You got to give him 3 years minimum to prove whether or not he's going to be able to work his 3-year plan.
Well, Mike Riley never addressed the line. Scott Frost never addressed the line. Scott Frost refused to make a change at his offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. The issues that Matt Rule is now facing today, the only issue really that he's facing today that's like the ones that those guys are facing, are the coaching situation. And if you go to the line on both sides of the ball, Matt Rule is addressing that, and he's trying to make sure they have the right personnel to play in the Big Ten. So at least Matt Rule is doing better than the last two coaches, and he's addressing the number one point of emphasis that you just talked about.
All right. Never mind me says we're all need the therapy after that disaster. I had a big bowl of ice cream before this store started with a big glob of like syrup on it. And it'll probably,
That's what you eat for dinner, John?
What? Yeah, ice cream. That's what I had for dinner.
You and I are living.
Oh my gosh,
brother. We're living different.
I had a nice Caesar chicken salad that I made myself. For God's sakes, I eat healthy. Otherwise, my family beats the shit out of me because I live with food Nazis. I have like a 20-something-year-old son that's the worst food Nazi of anybody I've ever met. Okay, Marcus Rystrom. The rotten son, he's the food Nazi. Marcus Rystrom says, we desperately need to get to a bowl in the extra practices. Foley and Satterfield got to go postseason. I don't disagree with that. I mean, obviously, I agree with the bowl game thing. And I think the thing is, before this game, I kind of thought, okay, all of our games except Ohio State are winnable. I guess after this game, I still look forward and think all of our games are winnable except Ohio State. And the reason I believe that is because everybody else has their own problems too. Our problem is Connor said earlier, is we're digressing on offense. We're not getting better. We seem to be getting worse. Whereas Wisconsin on offense seem to be figuring out where they are. UCLA beat up a Rutgers team that's basically a walking wounded team. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't worry that much about UCLA. Wisconsin and Iowa got beat up by Michigan State this weekend, and I watched part of that because it made me feel better. That's what it did. And just like watching Texas lose. And then
you just go back.
That was a good game.
That was an amazing game. There have been a lot of amazing college football games on over the last couple weeks. I'll tell you that. But John, go back to what you said a minute ago about regressing. Think back to Nebraska at 5-3 last season. They were going on a road trip to Michigan State, a Michigan State who we all believed was done. A Michigan State who I think was a significant underdog against Nebraska that day. And a Michigan State who beat Nebraska and then spun them out of control and sent them on this losing streak that kept them out of a bowl game when the entire world, myself, you included, assumed Nebraska in their last 4 games was going to make a bowl game. My fear is that the regression that we have watched over the last 3 weeks is going to continue just like it did last season, because for whatever reason, the coaching staff in place, I think the personnel has nothing to do with it, because the weaker personnel of last season and the way more experienced and way more talented personnel of this season were going through those exact same things against competition. So there is a common denominator here. And I'm afraid that common denominator is going to force Nebraska into a similar 5-7 finish, which will make me I don't have any hair. It will make me lose my shit is what I'm trying to say, John. I don't want to see a repeat of last year when we were fully prepared to overcome the nonsense that we've already seen.
Yeah, if we finish 5-7 this year, we're gonna have to burn things.
I'm ripping your hair out.
Oh my goodness! Shit. Hey, John, you have another super chat.
DJ Cruz with a super chat. Thank you. If Nebraska beats Ohio State, Connor, John, and Minnie will all have to dance live on YouTube for everyone to see. But Connor, you have to sing "Let It Go."
I would sing if Nebraska beat Ohio State. I'm like I've said on my show, John, I don't know how you feel about this. I am a circus performer. I'm a clown. I'm here for people's entertainment. I'm here to yell and scream and get excited. So if I have to do it, and that's what it takes to get super chats, I'll put on my clown nose and do it. I'll sing any song they want, especially for an Ohio State win.
Okay, Wednesday night I will be talking to my friend Ramsey. You've all probably, if you've watched the channel, you've heard Ramsey, you've seen Ramsey before. So Wednesday night I'll be talking to Ramsey about why they want Ryan Day fired. So that'll be fun. Linda LaFuria says, I've heard that Dylan Raiola has an ankle injury, which is hindering him when he throws, and no one is talking about it. Have you heard this?
Yeah, and there's another comment that I starred that addresses that.
Oh, did
you see it?
Put it up there.
Well, I don't know. I've just been highlighting them for you.
In charge of the comment section.
I sort of am. Yeah, here it is. James Boardman. We found out that Dylan tweaked his right ankle in practice the week of Rutgers. Re-aggravated it against Indiana. Explains his short passes.
Yeah, well, I don't know that ankle injury is enough to really hold Dylan back from being himself. He still had some good throws in that Indiana game, and he was still able to move. I saw that he really aggravated it during IU, though, when he got rolled up on. No, he landed on it funny when he had thrown it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much that affects his arm.
You know, I think part of put it this way. The guy, he's not playing well. And I know Minnie's going to defend him with every inch of her life, but we didn't take any downfield shots at all. You can say that, the receivers aren't getting separation. You know, look, she's got that look going. She did the hair flick and then the eye thing. And then he didn't take any downfield shots. And if you're going to do anything for this offense, take some downfield shots. You got big-bodied receivers. Make them go up and get the ball. You have to take some of those chances, I would think, sometimes, especially when your offense is doing nothing. But I think when I look at the offense and I look at why Dylan Raiola and why it may be regressing, I guess I look at it and think there's no confidence here. I mean, I get asked this to everybody watching this. If you're in your job and you don't have any confidence in the plan that your boss has, are you more or less productive? And if you're going to say more productive, well, you're full of shit.
No, I'm pissed off because if the people around me aren't performing at the level I'm performing at, then why the hell am I going to continue to give A+ effort when everyone else seems to give a C?
Yeah, I think that in this case, like Satterfield's run game, it's just not. Dr. Rob did a video where he breaks down some plays, and he showed about how the Indiana defense didn't adjust to motion at all and just basically knew that they were going to give the ball to Barney on a jet sweep type motion, and they stuffed him. Well, okay, aren't there variations to this stuff? I mean, I tried to look it up, but I didn't have time. Okay, I didn't take time.
It's true, though. What you're pointing out, Nebraska doesn't seem to throw opponents off. They run the exact same plays over and over, and that's what frustrates people. It's too predictable. It's too predictable for me as a fan. I watch Nebraska's game, and I feel like I know what's coming every time. Even when we see Barney in motion, it's like, okay, well, we know exactly what's going to happen here. Why can't the defense stop it? If they would have watched film, they would have known too, but they don't. But apparently IU did because they snuffed it out right away.
Minnie.
All I was going to say is that the wide receivers seem to be lacking in direction because Isaiah Nair has missed several plays. He's ran different routes and not gotten open. And it just seems like, wasn't also Jamal Banks getting like 800 yards at Wake Forest?
Yeah, he had like back 700-yard seasons.
What does he have now? Like 50 some? I mean, I just think that it's more of a coaching problem.
Well, what else is interesting is that Nebraska, I told you this on my halftime breakdown on the Twitter Spaces, John. I was saying that in the first half, IU was holding Isaiah Nayor and Jamal Banks, and they were basically personal fouling the way that Purdue was. Mm-hmm. So if you see that their DBs aren't confident in being able to cover our receivers, why aren't we taking more downfield shots and attacking those less confident DBs who were so obviously holding because they're afraid to give up big plays? So right. I felt like that was a coaching issue. If you were Marcus Satterfield, you're like, wait, I'm up in the box. I can see that my guy's in a one-on-one situation. Mm-hmm. Raiola can continue to throw him the ball if I just give him one-on-one coverage spots and just run him down the left sideline or whatever and toss it up. And then we'll either catch the ball one-on-one because we're bigger, or we'll get the penalty. And they didn't do it. So I don't know. There's just a lot of frustration.
I think that's that I don't know part is the kicker to all of this.
I'm not a football coach.
Are we better? Are we better than last year?
Are we better than last year?
Yeah.
God, I hate that you're asking this question because I actually have to think about this.
Not if all of our plays are predictable and all of our opponents know exactly what to run against us. No.
Well, the problem is, would the week 7, you're got to compare it to week 7 and where we're at right now, right? So would the week 8, would the week 8 Nebraska of last season beat the week 8 version of this season? Right now, I would lean the week 8 version of this season would win, but maybe I'd go week 7 because they had a field goal kicker at some points. So at least Alvano was healthy. So week 8 version from last season would beat this year. I don't know.
That should bother everybody.
100%.
That is so bad.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Should it does bother everybody? Go read the comments, John.
You know what? I deleted Twitter off my phone on Sunday and just kind of went, I need to move away from this. Have some ice cream. Think about the universe and its consciousness. I mean, doesn't it bother anybody else that because of the laws of physics, all energy has to be conserved? In other words, energy has to stay flat. It's involved in every equation. But somehow they came up with this idea that there was nothing. Then there was a big bang and all this energy appeared and it stayed constant ever since. That is the biggest bunch of bullshit ever. Okay, moving on.
Hey, John, can we address this comment here? Terry Sutton said, you could swap our roster and Indiana would still kick our ass. What does that tell you?
Fuck, he's not wrong. Terry's not wrong.
I don't know about that. I think our defense is miles ahead of Indiana, but
I don't believe that. Really? I don't believe that.
I don't either.
I think Indiana's DBs were fiery. I think that even though they were undersized, they hit really hard. They were in position. I think their D line created pressure the entire game. I think that Siggs could have made this Nebraska roster more fired up. Now, I will say this. Siggs doesn't have a roster like Nebraska. He has a roster full of winners, which took years to develop. So although I do think Siggs would be more successful with Nebraska's roster because of his attitude and I guess their coaching style, I do think that winning mentality of the past few seasons with all of those seasoned vets is helping him in a big way.
Mm-hmm. It makes me wonder what they're going to look like next year.
Who, Indiana?
Yes, because a lot of those players that he brought with him are 6-year players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're either going to have to get a huge portal haul or they're probably not going to be as dominant as they are right now. Mm-hmm. But I think the way they're trending, they're going to be an 8 to 9 win team every year, even in their down seasons, you know?
Yeah, but you know what? It won't matter for Indiana. That's the difference between us and them. If they can have like a 10-win season this year, they could live off that for a long time because
wait, this is therapy, right? So I can complain about my weekend gripes about Nebraska. Okay, so here's my issue with Nebraska. Nebraska losing pissed me off, right? But the biggest problem with Nebraska losing was that all of these loser Indiana fans come to my page and start talking shit. Just saying the most outlandish stuff. I'm telling you, these guys didn't even know the players on the roster until they watched them play against Nebraska on Saturday. And they're acting like they've been fans their whole lives. I've got a couple friends. I have one friend who's actually an Indiana fan. Okay. Like not as crazy as I am about Nebraska, but he's an Indiana fan. He went to school there. He knows Indiana's roster and he pays attention, but he doesn't even watch all their games. I'll call him all the time, you know, and I'll be like, hey, what's going on with IU? I don't know. He's like, you know, we're doing this and that. And I think they've got this going on. I'm like, well, who's the leading receiver? I don't know. I'd have to check. Well, he's an actual fan. Then you've got all these people who go to school there who say they're an IU fan, but they haven't watched a game in years. So now they're coming to talk shit on my page about how good their team is. You don't even know who the second string left tackle is. Get out of here.
You know how bad this big game was, so bad that my rotten son didn't give me shit about it. That's how bad it was.
For you. He felt bad.
He did. And I hate that. I hate the fucking sympathy part. The sympathy part is worse than anything else.
Yeah, I know.
You know, and even the guys, the Penn State guy that I work with and the Wisconsin guy I work with, they didn't even give me shit. That's how bad it was. They were like, oh, sorry, John. I was like, fuck you. Fuck all of you. Go.
God. Hey, by the way,
when they text you and they say, are you doing okay?
Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm reading the comment section, guys. By the way, I'm not responding to all the comments, but I am reading your comments. So thank you for coming to my defense in the comment section, fighting with the Indiana
It's
fans.
so nice.
Okay,
Nice.
Minnie, just put some comments up.
Oh gosh, just throw it on me. Okay.
Yeah,
We'll do this. Mike Corrigan says the Illinois throwback helmets were painted by a Nebraska artist.
Changing the subject to try and lower your blood pressure, John. That's so nice of her.
They were
Actually,
those were really
Mike
cool.
Corrigan did.
You know,
They
one of the
were
things I
great.
did, one of the things I did on my history channel is I actually did a video about Red Grange in the Illinois game and him scoring 4 touchdowns in 12 minutes against Michigan.
How old were you when you went to that game?
I was 6. I was 6.
That is so bad.
You know,
Oh my gosh,
time is an
Connor.
illusion, Connor. Does time really exist?
No, age is just a number.
RS says watching from the Philippines. Well, thank you, RS. I appreciate that we have
I know.
that's the second, isn't that the second person from the Philippines?
I think it's the same. It's always the same person from the Philippines.
Oh, okay. Well, grow some more Nebraska fans in the Philippines so the Philippines can feel as bad as we do about things.
Exactly.
All right. There's one here that really bothers me, so I'm going to let you guys have this. Roger Moore says H8 needs to start.
John?
Well, he okay. You know what? We do have one of the best quarterback recruits in the nation, and he's played well. And I will say that I don't know why they kept Dylan Raiola in for the 4th quarter other than just to crush his soul even further than it already was. But I would like to see Heinrich Harburg get more of what we saw against Indiana, where he had those option plays and he had the goal line package type stuff. That's where I would like to see Heinrich Harburg at. He doesn't need to start. He's not a better quarterback than Dylan Raiola. Everybody's favorite player is the backup quarterback when things go to shit. You know, I don't mean to be rude to you, Roger. I've seen that comment from a lot of other people. Dylan Raiola is not the problem with this offense in any ways whatsoever.
Roger, that comment is ridiculous. I am going to be rude because that comment is dumb as hell, and you know it. You're just saying it out of emotion, and you know that Dylan is the best thing that's happened to this offense in the last who knows how many years. Heinrich is a solid tight end who's going to be a great multi-year tight end in the NFL, and I cannot wait for him to get swapped over to a position that suits him best. Until then, I am so appreciative that we have a backup quarterback who can at least go out and win a game if worse comes to worse when Dylan does go down, if he was to, and Heinrich is going to be a great player in that role. Until then, I cannot wait to see how far Dylan can throw it. I want to see some 70-yard bombs over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we see some big plays from Banks and Aor. But if Heinrich was in there doing that, we would see no pass game, and we'd see a one-dimensional offense that got shut down just like we did last season.
Yeah. You guys have to remember. Sorry. I just need to piggyback on that just a little bit. You need to remember that we still have the #1 rated freshman quarterback in the nation. And there's going to be a lot of receivers that are coming our way. We have Coleman next year. We have hopefully Carter Nelson also.
You mean hopefully?
Is he redshirting this year?
I don't think he's redshirting.
Well, he'll have to redshirt. What did he play in? Yeah, what did he have? What did he play in high school?
What do you mean? What did he play in high school?
He played 6 or 8 man football, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, he still has to learn how to play football, for God's sake.
He's been successful so far. Hold on. Let's see how many games he's played so far. Hang on. He's
okay. Well, you're looking that up. Fred Sacco says Minnie will protect Dylan with every inch of her life. Minnie ain't too tall, John. She isn't tiny. And Fred, aren't you married or something? You know how this goes. It's not the dog size of the dog in the fight. It's the
what happens is Minnie treats these Nebraska players like they're her kids. That's the thing.
Yeah, I ain't messing with that too far.
It's true.
I checked. Carter Nelson's played in 3 games already, by the way. Right. He only can play in 1 more. I would not be surprised if they were to utilize him in more, but hopefully they do redshirt him.
Yeah,
I would think they'd have to redshirt him because, again, he's learning how to play football at a big boy level.
Of course.
I would think if we win a couple more games that we'll get a bunch more receivers to commit, big receivers. You know what I mean? So that's what the hope is. We got to keep playing Dylan.
Pitt says,
and you have to get a new offensive coordinator. But yeah, keep going.
Maybe we shouldn't have hired a 12-year-old wide receiver coach.
Yeah,
you address that one, Connor.
I don't know about the deal with Garrett McGuire. Is he to blame for Jamal Banks' blocking issues? I mean, Isaiah Nayor and Jamal Banks have both missed crucial blocks multiple times this season. First off, they both had penalties called against them on big runs multiple times this season, and they don't get open. And I don't know if that's a wide receiver coach not teaching them how to get off the line or if it's the scheme, but there are questions with McGuire. There's no question. He is one of the three in the bundle with Raiola and Satterfield, who I don't want to say they're all in the hot seat, but they're trending that way.
They're on the warm seat, except for Satterfield. His ass should be just burning right now.
Well, he's in the oven. He's in the oven right now. He's feeling it.
John, I remember you saying that everybody hates their offensive coordinator.
They do. They do hate their offensive coordinator. You know what they hate, though? They hate a guy who can't manufacture points more than anybody. And that's the problem. It wouldn't be so bad, but we're like scoring almost nothing.
The problem is the offense is barely better than what it was last year. And last year was atrocious. It was the worst offense in Nebraska football history. They had no quarterback. They had no running backs. They had no receivers. They were down to their last leg, and they still scored 13 points a game. This team has all of that and more, and they're only scoring 16.8 points a game. What the hell is going on? That's the problem.
You know who has the number one? You know who has the number one scoring defense in the nation now?
Number one scoring defense?
Scoring offense. I'm sorry.
Oh, Iowa. Iowa does.
No, scoring offense.
Iowa does. I'm tricking in.
I looked it up yesterday.
Her face.
I looked it up yesterday, or I looked it up this morning.
And
Minnie, you got to know.
I forget. Oh gosh. Okay.
No, we just played them.
No way.
Yes, they have
because they've scored 70 some points and 50 some points against us.
Yes.
So that makes sense.
Nebraska strong, go big red. Coaching gets an F grade against Indiana in all three phases. Yeah, I think after a game like that, they just it's pretty much shitty all around. Is shitty a grade?
Shitty's a grade.
Hey, Connor, do you have political ambitions?
Do I have political ambitions?
Connor for president?
I don't know what statement I said to bring up Connor for president, but
I don't know.
I could make some pretty good decisions if I was in Matt Rule's ear. I could help him navigate the waters of being a Nebraska head coach and appeasing the fans. I should be his right hand in fan interaction.
Could you imagine if John was your vice president?
I should not be his right.
Imagine if John was employed by the University of Nebraska in any capacity.
I'd have to go
politically incorrect, but John is more offensive than me.
I don't know.
I would have to probably have a shock collar to be.
Yeah, I would keep the shock collar button too. I'll be in charge.
Wait, whoa. Gosh. Okay. All right. You have starred a bunch of these. Tiger Shark Diver says, honestly, I don't know if we're just that bad or if Indiana can beat a top 5 team because they look like number 1 against us. Here's the thing. That game snowballed. And if you've ever played any sports whatsoever, played enough games, you can get into a situation where everything is it's like an avalanche. And that game was like an avalanche. And the problem with it is we're going to treat it like it's not an avalanche. We're going to treat it like it's not an outlier. And it's what we expect from now on. I think that's our biggest problem.
But out of respect for IU could compete with any team in the country the way they're looking right now. Now, not any. I think that they go up against Georgia or Bama and, the speed might be too much. But I think Ohio State, a team who is in their conference, a team I want to say familiar with, but they're not because all of those players are brand new. Regardless, I think they could compete with Ohio State. Not sure that they would beat them, but Indiana's a good football team this year. They are really good. They're complete. I think that's the most important. They're complete in all 3 phases.
That's true. Now, I have a question. Didn't they put in their 3rd string quarterback at the end of the game, and they were still scoring. They were still scoring.
Yeah.
That's what I don't get. A third string quarterback, and they're still scoring against us.
Nebraska, when you've given up, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Connor could have gone out and played quarterback.
Correct. Well, it wasn't the third string quarterback. It was Taven Jackson, who's a former, I think he's a 5-star. He went to Tennessee. His brother's TJD, who's a famous basketball player. He's a freak athlete. He's really good. Dual threat QB who didn't work out at Tennessee because they got Iam Aliava, but he's definitely the future at Indiana. And yeah, he's going to beat Washington this week. They're a 7-point favorite against Washington, and he'll be their starter. So yeah, it's what it is. I saw a comment that says Connor's in his feelings. Let's address that comment. It said Connor's in his feelings. Something about I appreciate that Nebraska's 5-2. So let's talk about that. Yeah, I do appreciate that Nebraska's 5-2. I think it's wonderful. What I don't appreciate is the regression that we watched take place last season now spill over into 2024. I appreciate teams who continue to trend up, and this team continued to trend up off of the offseason. There was development. There was reason to be excited. The players were all pumped up, and now what we're seeing is everything is going out the door. All of the hype that we had for this team has now completely dissipated. And I'm sitting here like there's a legitimate shot. They finished 5-7. Why do I feel like there's a legit shot that they're 5-7 when I'm the most optimistic guy in the room? Maybe Minnie's more optimistic than me, but usually I'm the most optimistic guy in the room. And I'm sitting here telling you there is reason to be scared. UCLA could beat Nebraska. USC should beat Nebraska. Wisconsin will beat Nebraska, and Iowa should beat Nebraska. That's how I feel right now. So I know I should appreciate 5-2, and I do. But unless this team makes a drastic turnaround, which I have little faith based on what I've seen the last 3 weeks, then there is reason for me to feel tight about our 5-2 start. Even though, yes, from a win-loss standpoint, it looks good. Looks can be deceiving.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
Connor, I'm just going to play devil's advocate real quick.
Play it.
What if we lost that game 6-7, like Rule said in his press conference?
Okay, so losing a game 6-7 implies that we were competitive and we played good football throughout the entire day. So I would feel extremely optimistic about this season. Nebraska would not have, the offense still would give me a scare, but I'm assuming losing 6-7 means we didn't turn it over 5 times. We didn't fumble going into the red zone. I feel like the defense obviously would have had to play lights out for the most part, had multiple pressures on the QB, didn't give up anything deep over the top. So yeah, I would feel fantastic. And I would feel like Nebraska's in position to do exactly what they're supposed to this year, which is win 7 or 8 games with a chance at 9 in their bowl game, and all would be well. But that's not what happened. What happened was the wheels came off. They played like a high school football team, and it's okay as long as they don't repeat that performance going forward. However, I'm afraid that they're going to repeat that performance since we've already seen signs that that's the team they are, playing against Rutgers and playing against Purdue 2 weeks before.
Well
I'm just nervous. This is therapy. The only reason, because you guys know, I never get that excited or have this much energy. I'm very chill.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Well, here's Vince Watson. Here's Vince Watson with everyone's sugar rush from a few wins comes crashing down. Now the fans are throwing a tantrum like a bunch of toddlers. 5-2 and is still mid rebuild. Take a chill pill.
Yeah. Well, I addressed it. I addressed this, Vince. I agree with Vince to some degree, but everything I just said negates his point.
That's true. Plus, this is Monday Night Therapy. This is where we let it all hang out. So
I'm out.
This isn't about taking a chill pill. This is about just letting it out,
losing my
being
shit
on the couch.
Yeah, if I can lose it, this is the place I can lose it.
Yeah.
No, it's a good point. If we're 5-2 and we lost both of those games by, a field goal, then you feel pretty good going forward.
I don't know. If Ohio State would have done this to us, we probably would have went, oh, it's Ohio State, but it was freaking Indiana. I
know.
And his point is, we were not competitive in. I don't know if Matt Rule said something about it. I think he said they didn't give up. Bullshit. They pretty much gave up toward the third quarter. They were toast. They might as well have replaced everybody on the field. Maybe they could have replaced them with Long John Silver impersonators.
The play they gave up, I know what play it was because I felt it in my bones. Okay. There was a run by one of their running backs. It was on the left hash. He went left, the entire line and the receivers blocked down. It left a wide open lane back the other side of the field.
Yeah.
And the dude busted it for a 45-yard run. I think Malcolm Hartzog chased him down, took him down before he got to the end zone. But that play was the moment where it was like, oh my God, Nebraska is outmatched. They just got dominated at all three levels. They were completely out of position, and Indiana is going to have their way on the ground. And right after that play, I tweeted the photo of Melvin Gordon running on his, whatever it was, 400 yards day in Madison, where he completely exposed a top 25 Nebraska and Bo Pelini's defense and really solidified the end of the Bo Pelini era at Nebraska. It was a disgusting display that day, and it was a disgusting display on Saturday. Both times.
I guess I questioned in the first series when they he broke out on that 40-yard run. That play, if you look at it from I was going to go screenshot this, but on that play, I don't know what our defense was lining up with, but they were so far out of alignment. It's like, what the hell are they doing? And then the guy takes off. So I think that, again, going back to the Dr. Rob thing where it looked like Indiana knew what we were doing. Why? Because we're not that creative on offense, especially in the run game. We are not doing anything that shows any level of put this in the game specifically for this opponent type stuff.
Okay, John. Well, here I have 5 more minutes, and I got to get out of here. So I got another question for you.
Okay.
I want to know your expectation. Like going forward, what do you feel like is a reasonable thing to believe about this team? Because we got a lot of hope in the beginning for good reason. Then things came to a screeching halt over the past few weeks. Now we're sitting here feeling vibes of 2023, and we're all biting our nails, waiting to see what happens. What's a realistic expectation for the team going forward, and how do you think things are going to play out?
Wow. Did you just think about this all day?
I thought about it right now in the moment. I got to get your thoughts. I can't leave here without knowing how you feel.
I don't know how to feel. I think this weekend's going to tell us a lot about whether or not they're actually going to play football.
The effort
because
level.
I do think that there's a very real chance that this team is just going to say, well, we beat Colorado and everybody wanted us to beat Colorado. And again, it goes back to, I don't think this team has any confidence on the offensive side of the ball whatsoever. They don't have confidence of what they're doing. They don't have confidence in what they're being asked to do because they don't have confidence in their coaching staff. And that's a real, somebody somewhere is going to have to manufacture like 14 to 21 points a game. And that's the big issue.
You don't think that you think the players aren't bought into their coaches?
On the offensive side of the ball, yeah. I think the defense is fine.
Yeah,
I think on the offensive side, I mean, you can almost see in the way Dylan Raiola moves. It's kind of like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't know what to do. You know what I mean?
Because he runs around in pocket and nothing's there, and it just kind of burning time.
Yeah. And you're literally wasting. Well, I don't want to say you're wasting his freshman season, but I mean, because he is learning how to play Division I football, but put it this way. At the end of this season, if we go 6-6 this season and we make a bowl game, and this season coming into next season, Marcus Satterfield is still our offensive coordinator, why would Dylan Raiola stick around?
That's my fear. If
ultimately his goal and his family's goal for him and their other son would be to get to the league because they're that good of an athlete.
Well, it's to win a national championship and to get there. And that's the reason he's even flirted with the idea of not going to Nebraska to begin with, because he knows he can go to a big time program and compete at a high level.
Right. If you don't have the confidence in your offensive staff that's going to happen, then I'd get the fuck out of there. You don't have a choice. And when people get angry about you and feel betrayed, you have to look out for yourself because nobody else is looking out for you.
Okay, and now you're starting to create an ad for why Dylan needs to leave. So let's chill, John. I don't need you selling Dylan on why he needs to leave Nebraska.
No, I'm creating an ad for why Marcus Satterfield needs to leave.
Gosh. Okay.
Nothing there. There is literally nothing there. If you want to talk about somebody that digressed, this is a grown-ass man making, what is he making? $1 million a year?
1.4 million. It's not enough, though. He deserves, what do you think you need to live in Nebraska? 1.8 to have a comfortable life.
Yeah, he needs about $60K. That's what he needs.
Okay. And
a
Fred
fucking
Sacco
moped.
chimes in and he says, Connor, you're making a mistake asking John to make a reasonable, well, anything.
Yeah, I can be reasonable.
I like to get John out of character, you know. I like to get John fired up. It's fun to see a reaction from this guy.
You know,
So,
real
you know,
quick.
again, I think a lot of this is going to depend on how do they play against Ohio State. Are they going to show up or are they just going to get steamrolled? If they're going to get steamrolled, then you just toss the rest of the season.
Okay, well,
I
John,
think Ohio State is good, but I think our defense should be able to at least compete with them to a certain extent. You know, keep in mind they're all like, you know, I think their team is fine. Ohio State, their fan base is all apoplectic about them losing to Oregon, and you know, that's why we'll talk to Ramsey Wednesday night. Okay. Segathon NHL 95 says we're going bowling. Book it for one. We'll have no problem with the Great Motor City if that's it. There you go.
Here's the thing. To get to a bowl game, they just need to beat UCLA or Iowa. I think those are going to be the two easiest games to win at this point. And I feel like they have a really good chance to do either one as long as they play like the team that we saw prior to Purdue. Now, if they only show us what they've shown since Purdue, I feel really nervous about this book it prediction. But I still feel confident because I think that the team that we all believed in a month ago is somewhere within. They've just got to dig it out and find a way to get back to that level.
Kenny says Frost games were not this bad. Well, they were still losses.
But they weren't.
And they were losses of 5 years of losses.
Right. No. He's right, John. He's right. I looked at the stats and the numbers. Scott Frost had a couple bad losses. One to Ohio State in 2019. It was Ohio State blowout. Then in 2020, another Ohio State blowout. Outside of that, they were relatively competitive in every single game. And if they weren't, like Illinois back in 2020 when they had Luke, what's his freaking name? McCaffrey at quarterback, it was because they had a McCaffrey at quarterback instead of Adrian, who was supposed to be their starter. The wheels fell off for Adrian, so they put him in, remember? They lost that game by around 21 points. But in most games, they were competitive. Even in 2022, before Scott Frost got fired, at least they were competitive with both the teams that they lost to while he was still in the program. So the last two that we've watched with Matt Rule that were total blowouts, Ohio State or Michigan and Indiana, were so uncharacteristic of Nebraska that it's frustrating to watch because they usually give effort. And it reminds us of the days of Bo Pelini because Bo Pelini had multiple days where the wheels completely fell off and the team was unrecognizable and looked like a shell of itself. I've thought a lot about this, John. I'm addicted to this shit. I'm addicted, and I look at all these numbers and go back and look. I know I have issues. I remember all of it.
What do you think happened in this game? Why do you think the offense is regressing?
I don't think that the offense is good against really good teams. So I think when a really good teams can come in and like Michigan of last year or Indiana of this year, when they can come in and scheme against it, plus they have the talent advantage, they're going to be able to dominate them in every single way. Run, pass, you know, any of the options they tried to run with what's his name? Ja'Cory Barney. Nebraska just had no shot because the team they were playing was too good. If they play an average team or a team who doesn't have a good of a coach, they're not going to be able to dominate in the same way. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, but our offense was shitty against Purdue and Rutgers.
Yeah, but they were still able to make something of it because that coaching staff wasn't as elite and the players weren't as good.
Guys, I just had to put this comment up here.
Aaron Evans says, God damn, it only took one game for people to reminisce about the good old days of the Scott Frost era.
It's true.
Yeah.
Boy, do we miss him.
It's true.
JC says we couldn't block, but we made up for it by not tackling. That's always a good combination.
Hang on. I see comments saying that Dylan Raiola's hurt and stuff. My understanding, I've talked to some people. Over the bye week, he was 100% healthy. He was working out in Fort Worth, fully good to go. Any injuries that he sustained were from this most recent game. And anything before this recent game were so minor that they weren't even thoughts and they weren't impacting him as a passer or as a quarterback in any way. So I'm not worried about Dylan's injury situation. Maybe there's something to look into with the ankle after he stepped on it wrong or rolled it or whatever he did against IU. But I don't think there's some injury that we have to be worried about with Raiola that is, you know, lingering. He's just been playing with a weak offense the last few weeks.
I agree.
Okay. But why wouldn't this
Do you want to put this up? Oh, sorry. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kaylee Bartels says Dylan was always going to struggle. He is a true freshman taking over a 5-7 team that was largely there because of defense. The early struggles are likely a good learning experience.
I agree with that. I think that
Yeah.
a lot of what he has to go through, he has to get on film and he has to realize here are some things that I can improve on in my own game. And here are some things that college players and college coaches are going to scheme up that the high school guys never did. So yeah, he has to learn all of these things that he could never learn in high school. And so this year's a burner year, but you would still hope he's going to look at this year and say, you know, I was still the most talented guy on the field and I was able to take over games against teams who didn't have as good of players as I am. Because remember, Dylan is still playing in some situations against opponents who he would have beat up on in high school. You know, 3-star recruits from UCLA, for example, are guys that he should be able to go after and beat.
You know what my thought was reading this is that this woman and Minnie should get together and start like a Dylan defense club. What I'm thinking.
Kaylee and I have words a lot of times. She comes at it from another perspective, and I come at it from, you know, very positive. She's very like level-headed. I like that about her.
I'm glad that the CornNation group has a lot of level-headed people here to offset John's craziness. And John, on that note, I have to go.
Do you?
Me, yeah.
Well, it's good to see you, man.
I'm glad that we got to do our thing. I'm hoping you and I can do a little halftime discussion after during Ohio State. Hopefully, it's not.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.
All right. Take care of yourself.
The Corn Crazed. I love it.
Thanks for the shirt.
Bye.
All right. Now we can talk about it.
Let's do that.
All right. Scott Westman says, we won the games we won in the first half. Second half points have been dismal. Yeah, that's true. It's the coast thing. Okay, what else is going on? My God, there's a shit.
Well, I had a question, John. What do you think about that? You know, nobody's brought this up yet. Some people thought that the reason we lost was because we were away and it was an early game.
Well, I think mention in my post-game reaction that Nebraska does have to figure out how to show up for games before noon. And I do think that was an issue. I also pointed out something that hasn't come up tonight, and that is this. You compare what happened to the Colorado game to this game. In the Colorado game, we went out and punched Colorado in the face, and that game was over in the first three plays. It literally was. Colorado knew they were going to keep up us, and we beat the shit out of them. And I think this whole game against Indiana was over in the first series. I think the defense just, for some reason whatsoever, felt like whatever game plan they had against Indiana was very screwed. And they just went, well, fuck this shit. I hope the offense can do something. And then the offense didn't do anything. And then the offense got, compounded the problem because, first of all, I saw that Matt Rule said, I should have kicked the field goal on the first drive. No, you shouldn't have, because field goals weren't going to win this game. You knew that our Indiana had a potent offense. So don't second guess your own aggressiveness. The problem was Dylan Raiola. We all knew Dylan Raiola was going to throw to Fedoni. Everybody knew that in the universe. Right. So why he's not looking at the other guys, it's a confidence issue. A lot of other people look at football from a standpoint of talent versus talent. I always look at it from a standpoint of a mental aspect, because if you don't have that right, you're not going to, none of the rest matters. So, and I think the biggest problem with this team really isn't that, it's not the players. It's not the physicality. It's not how talented they are. It's flat out their mental attitude toward playing this game. That's my take on it. And that's why the rest of the season they're going to have to figure out how to play football. They're just, if we get shit kicked at us by Ohio State, and Marcus Satterfield still has a job coming the next week, I really don't. I really soured on him over the last 2-3 games. And in this one, it's like, You're not even bothering to come up with new stuff. You're not even bothering with the wrinkles. I was going to do, I know one of my books back here talks about the Osborne offense. And the thing about the Osborne offense is they didn't run a massive shit tons of different plays, but they'd have like maybe 4 or 5 different formations, but they had a lot of different things they did out of the same formation. And I think really, you know, Jake and Haas and Greg last night on the CornNation overreaction. I hope you guys are watching their show because they're very good at looking at the offense and defense and talking about that stuff on a much deeper level than I ever will. But I think that's the thing about our offense right now. There's no wrinkles. There's nothing magic about it. There's nothing, not anything they're doing anything different to maybe throw a defense off. That's what I see. So Kenny says, run the damn ball. Well, you know,
well,
you're going to have to figure out how to run the ball, but they're not capable of doing it for one reason or another. Did
you look at the stats, the rushing stats for this game? They were horrible. They were like 26 and 55. That was it, max.
We had 70 rushing yards, and Heinrich Harburg was our top rusher. Emmett Johnson averaged 3 yards a carry. Dante Dowdell 2.3. I mean, you can't, you know, that's not even an offense. And even worse, it's shittier than last year's offense. I mean, obviously we had so many turnovers that you know.
Well, John, you know, you mentioned the Colorado game real quick, and I think we need to put that kind of in its own little bubble, because that was a very emotional game that, I mean, there were a lot of veterans that came back just for that game.
True.
And you're right. They're not playing with that same sort of heart.
Yeah.
Every other game.
I get, you know, if you can't figure out how to get yourself up for these games, then I don't know why you would show up. Yeah. I guess they didn't against Indiana.
They didn't.
John Smith says, it sounds harsh, but maybe think about ending the sellout streak. What is the incentive for Nebraska to be good if it sells out even after 30 years of mediocrity? I don't really understand this attitude.
We're still fans, John Smith.
Yeah, I don't. What is he saying? The fans shouldn't go to the game, and that's going to make some difference? That's not going to make any difference. That's the thing that I don't get about this. You know, if fans suddenly don't go, what's going to happen out of that? What are you hoping to have that some change, magic fucking change will happen that hasn't happened already? The people, and put it this way, I don't think Trev Alberts, when he was here, hired Matt Rule so he could fail. And I don't think Matt Rule purposely hires the coaches he has so he can fail either. And again, it goes back to pride in doing your work. It doesn't matter how much money people make. Well, I guess it does for some. But at a certain level, there's still a competitiveness and there's still a pride in doing your work. And Matt Rule wouldn't be at the level he is at as a coach if all he did was give a shit about money. He wouldn't have taken the Nebraska job because he was already getting paid a crap ton of money for being fired by the Carolina Panthers. So I think when we look at him from the attitude that we have. Well, if I had enough money to retire, I'd just retire. Well, again, these are people that are way more competitive than you and I, although I can be really competitive in IT, which sounds really weird. Okay, we'll take some more questions.
Serenity now.
Blue Roller Coaster says, I want Nebraska to make a bowl just so many could be happy.
That would make my whole Husker fandom worthwhile. I mean, I've never experienced it.
Flies Goodbye says, honestly, guys, I just think we came up with a coach who is cheating the system, much like Sanders is trying to do, but he has players he could bring from other programs. I assume he means look at our coach, plays the long game. I agree with that. It's just frustrating trying to get there. I do think we need to make changes on the offensive side of the ball. And by the way, I don't think Kirk Cignetti is cheating the system. I think that the system is completely changed.
Yeah. How did they do that? How did they do that and expect for it to stay competitive? I mean, they just changed the rules willy-nilly. Okay, yeah, you can now bring players with you and coaches.
Right.
And now we're all supposed to be able to compete against that.
You know, look at Vanderbilt, though. Yeah. Vanderbilt's been a doormat for years. They upset Alabama. Why did they upset Alabama? Because they were able to get a quarterback where they never literally in their previous years would have been able to get that level of a quarterback. So this is changing the game. It's just a matter of how well are you going to play this game and how good are you are doing it. Athletic directors, you know, I mean, put it this way. I'm going to pause to breathe. Cleansing breath. Yeah. Athletic directors for decades have been terrible at business. That's why we have these buyouts that are like $90 bajillion, you know, and coaches' contracts that have ballooned because the athletic directors as a whole are much shittier at negotiating than agents and coaches. You know, and now when we move forward, we're going to have athletic directors that are much better at business than they've ever been, much better at negotiating, much better at understanding what they're getting themselves into. And I don't mean just in relationship with the coaches. I believe in the last, couple weeks, the House settlement has basically been approved, and universities are going to start paying their athletes. And they're going to have to figure out how to allocate that across sports. Do they want to allocate it all to football? Do they want to pay baseball players? I hope in Nebraska they support the baseball program, because if there's one sport where we could kick the shit out of the rest of the conference on the men's side, it'd be baseball. So if they're really stupid, they won't support baseball. I don't want to imply anything there. I hope to God that they get their brains together and we can have a baseball team that, you know, wins a baseball team that hosts regionals every fucking year, because that's where we should be with that. Anything. Aaron Keene says, we haven't even talked about the long snapper. Weird. This is probably the best week in that guy's life so far this season.
Isn't that nice? That is so nice. That's a positive. Look at that. That's a positive.
Fred Sacco says every team scenario is different, but I'm tired of seeing every other first-year regimes kick our ass. Sickening. I besides Indiana, who has? I mean, what other first? Come on, Fred. What other first-year coaches have done this? I mean,
Illinois in his second year. Well, does that count?
Yeah, but Bert's been around forever in the Big Ten.
And what about Colorado last year?
Well, that was okay. We were still trying to get our shit together then.
You know, you brought up that you ate a bowl of ice cream. That's the same thing I did after Colorado beat us last year. I went to ice cream.
Okay, what Fred Sacco says Billima did it. He wasn't a first-year coach. I don't know how you can. I wouldn't consider Billima in the Big Ten a first-year coach. Fred Sacco says dipshit Dion. Okay, that was last year. Scott Westman says Florida State. I'm not sure what that's relative to. Other than
Florida State. Yeah, didn't they just lose?
Yeah.
Who beat them?
Duke for the first time in their school history, which was kind of cool.
You know, there's so many upsets. I like it.
John says you're still trying to get your shit together. I'm not sure if that's directed at me.
That's directed to our team.
Oh,
our Huskers. We are trying to get our shit together. Yes.
Kenny says Bellama didn't stop running the ball despite Illinois getting 2 yards of carry early against the Huskers. We can't run the ball. We can't. You cannot. This isn't the old days. Our offensive line is just flat out not good enough to run against the defenses we're seeing. And the biggest problem with this right now as an offense is not only that I think our offensive coordinator isn't very good at manufacturing stuff that's going to make things easier for our line, is with Dylan Raiola right now, we don't have a running quarterback, so we have to make that up. Because if you take that run game from the quarterback out of it, then basically you have 11 defenders playing on 10 offenders, if that makes any sense. And next, you've limited a game because you're not throwing the ball downfield, so you're not stretching the defense. And therefore, all the defensive backs and all the defenders know that they can just creep that much closer to the line. And that's going to stick up your running game. That's going to stuff up your running game even worse than it is. Dylan is very good at his medium and short and intermediate stuff. I'm starting to run out of energy, aren't I? It's really noticeable toward the end of the show when all the English pronunciation goes out the window. But we're going to have to figure out how we're either going to stretch the field to get the defenders to respect that, or we're going to have to, I don't know, screens and misdirections is what I would choose, and then try to figure out how we're going to run the ball again against that. I
have an idea.
What's the idea?
We need to stop giving away our plays whenever we're giving press conferences. Have you noticed that? We're up there. We're talking about the 12-man personnel, right? The two tight ends. We've run that. I mean, that's the scheme that you're talking about offensively. That's what they're predicting, and they're defending it so well we can't even run it well. And then last week with John Bullock giving away so many of, we're going to disguise this and we're going to disguise. Of course, that's why our defense wasn't doing well. I think we need to just kind of zip it.
Okay.
Secrets.
Loose lips sink ships. Is that what that is?
That's right. Which means we don't get a peek around the curtain anymore. But if that's what it takes.
Chris Lance says we give away our plays with the personnel that break the huddle. Very obvious play calling. I don't know. I guess I haven't noticed that because I haven't looked that hard at it. Pitt says HH Heinrich Harburg RPO and counter game, then chuck it. You know, here's the thing with that. Probably Indiana, with what Indiana did extremely well was the RPO stuff. And I don't think we do a lot of that stuff. I don't think we do hardly any of that stuff. Again, go back and listen to Greg and Haas. And is it Jake?
It's Jake.
Yeah. Okay.
John, you did great.
Yeah. Have you got any other questions? Throw them out here in the next 2 minutes and we'll be done because I'm starting to fade down the hill there. Vince Watson says no more press conferences ever. Well, you know. And nobody ever asked any real questions at the damn thing, so I'm not sure what the hell the deal is. What are they joining here?
I have no idea. Okay, here's the deal, John. You know I'm going to the Ohio State game this weekend.
Oh, that's right, you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I was really looking forward to it. Then after Saturday's loss, I'm like, I'm taking with me people that that jumped on the bandwagon because I've been talking up the Huskers so much.
So you want to know what to do about that?
Yeah. What do I do?
You know what? You just listen. Everybody brings up the Melvin Gordon game. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the Melvin Gordon game. I was up there with a bunch of friends of mine, and we had a blast that weekend. Everything we did was a shit ton of fun, with the exception of watching Melvin Gordon run over our ass. So, you know, a lot of times Nebraskans approach football games like they're religious events. Okay?
Yeah, we do.
Ohio State fans approach these games like they're religious events too.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Wisconsin fans, they don't do that. They approach their games like they're social events, which means they're going to go and they're going to probably drink their asses off and they're going to have fun. Is it better if their team wins? Yes. Is it shitty if they lose? Well, we're going to have fun anyway. So what the hell? Most of the traditions that Wisconsin has or a lot of them, were built so that people would show up to the games, watch a crappy team. This is before, come on, Barry Alvarez arrived. Watch a crappy team, but have fun doing it anyway. Like if the eat shit fuck you cheer that Wisconsin does that you never hear unless you actually go to a game there because they mask it out on TV for good reasons. I mean, that was all invented. Why? Because they just wanted to have fun at games. So I just, go to the game, have a fun time, talk to Ohio State fans, get to know them.
Oh, I'm going. I've already been invited to some tailgates. I don't know how I'm going to make it to a tailgate that early in the morning, but
you get up and you gussy yourself up earlier than you're used to.
You
can do it because Nebraska has to figure out how to play at 11 a.m. games.
It's true.
What is that? Kegs, eggs, and football?
Yeah, but I'm even 2 hours further behind Nebraska. So there's that. I'll do it.
Okay.
You're right, Don.
Vince Watson says, get really drunk and just have fun.
Okay.
I think somebody earlier told me to have a beer. Somebody told me that somebody on YouTube replied to one of my comments and said that I shouldn't be drinking Pepto-Bismol because it'll screw your stomach up, which, I thought was an interesting comment. Fred Sacco said, geez, many knowingly subjecting people to this shit show spending $signs live and in-person fucking monster.
I am a monster.
You know what I would say to that, Fred? You know what I would say to that? We always hurt the ones we love the most.
It's true.
Yeah. So if they're not worth hurting, they're probably not worth love either.
Yep.
Aaron Keene, who knew how important the UCLA game would be when I grabbed tickets. Imagine. By the way, I need to find some tickets to UCLA in Indiana because I still have people that want to go.
That'll be fun.
Nebraska Rascals says, Minnie, are you coming to the USC game?
Yep, I am. Bringing my whole family. It'll be my daughter's first Nebraska game. So that'll be fun.
Linda Wilkins says, does Pepto-Bismol, I assume, have a light version? No, I don't know. Morgan.
Oh my gosh.
Morgan Drewy says soup. I don't know what that is. 99 cents for a super sticker.
Oh, a super sticker.
What is that?
Thank you. It's just a super sticker.
Oh, I forgot to put the whole banner up to buy merch. Oh, well, what the heck?
Buy merch.
Okay. Cameron W says, if the at the press conference, I heard Matt Rule say, sorry, you paid money to watch this. Embarrassing.
It's true.
That was kind of a nice comment by him. James Boardman says, are you going to get James Williams back for next week? I hope so, because he was a lot of fun, and we need to all talk to him about what he's going to do for cold weather gear. I did send him a cold weather article on Twitter that used all my winter survival techniques on how you survive in the cold. Linda says, hit the like button, boys. Yes, please do.
Thank you, Linda.
It helps us with the
algorithm.
Twitter, the algorithm. Okay.
Oh my gosh, this is a great idea. Why did we not think of this? Roger Moore.
Mom Snapper stickers would sell well. Does he means the stickers like this one that you can buy now? Or does he means the stickers on the electronic stickers?
John, you need to come up with a saying for our long snapper. CornNation sticker long snapper.
John, remember the cop question. What's that about? I don't know what that's about.
I have no idea.
My memory is failing me.
Wait a minute. What happened?
What happened?
Something involving a cop?
Who? Me?
Did you get? Yeah.
Not recently. I'd have to leave my house. I'd have to leave my house for the police to get involved.
Okay, John.
All right. Cam Duncan says USC is getting a full-blown reality check on what Big Ten football is. Stupid move for USC. USC is going down the toilet. Let's talk about USC. Who beat them? Maryland? Maryland beat them.
Yes, the Turtles beat them.
I said this before.
Barely.
Well, according to Matt Rule, it's still a win if you win by one or lose by one. You know what I mean?
True.
Anyway, USC, I think, again, I'll say this earlier. I'll say this now. Oh, my God, it really is going out the window. Lincoln Riley has never faced defenses like he's faced in the Big Ten. Maybe not Maryland's defense, but they're going to find out how hard it is to go into a conference and, learn how to play football against them because it's different than it used to be.
There was a poll put out last week that listed the top paid college football coaches, and Lincoln Riley was like the 4th on the list.
Yeah.
4th.
Phil Spear says USC is gettable. I agree with that, but it all depends on, again, how do we show up against Ohio State? Is this team going to still have any confidence? Is something going to happen that's going to bring that together? They're gonna play 2 of their best opponents, back to back, Indiana and Ohio State, and we're gonna see how they come out of it. I think. Cameron W says it's sad knowing we haven't gotten to a bowl game in 8 years. Cameron, here's some advice: don't think about the past. Look to the future. Literally, look. That you can do nothing about the past. You can't change it. You can't let it bother you. You can't make up for stupid things you said to that girl. Just go forward and try to be better tomorrow than you were this last weekend.
John, with all the things that you have said in the past, that may be the wisest thing you've ever said.
Well, here's the thing. Because of what I've gone through and how I've had to recover and how I've had to survive, I don't do a lot of the same things that other people do. Like, for example, I don't worry about the past. I don't, because if I do, I start thinking about the heart attack and the brain injury, and I can't change those things. One of the things I never do that a lot of survivors spend a lot of too much time on is, I wish I was the person before I died. I don't do that because I cannot change that. There's a lot of changes in my life and it's a lot of difficulty to get through it. So focusing on tomorrow is much healthier, or today, right now. And that's why looking at the rest of the season, if you look all the way down the road, does it look daunting? Yes. And that's why they have that philosophy of 1-0. And that's the other thing that people do so often is doom, the constant, what if this happens in 2 weeks? What if that happens? What if Dylan Raiola leaves? Okay, well, that's months away. What if Tony White leaves? That was a big question last year. Well, he's here for the season now. Focus on the now and what we're going to do next and what we're going to do tomorrow and where we're going to be. That's the things. Those are the things you can work on and control. You can't worry about the future because, I honestly, Carrie, I actually wrote down a list of all the ways the world will end.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I use them for people. Because listen, I talk to heart attack survivors like every week in online groups. Okay. And there are a lot of them that will go, okay, my doctor told me I have this and this, and I'll never live the next 20 years. And I always think you're not guaranteed the next 20 years anyway.
True.
Yep. So sometimes when I get really feisty with people, I list all the, global warming. I'm going to read you the list I have written down. Global warming. This is from 2017, so it's old. Global warming, mutated Ebola bird swine monkey flu virus, a la 1918 on steroids. Well, that kind of almost happened. Population implosion. Population bomb, Earth hit by asteroid, meteor, drop in sperm count across the globe. That's kind of happening. Nuclear holocaust. Well, that's only one button away. EMP. If North America was hit by an EMP, the casualty rate in the United States would be 90% in 1 year. Sentient artificial intelligence. Wrote that down way before Chat GPT. I wrote down millennials, apparently. Ice age, starvation, complete lack of society, lack of clean water. That's kind of a big thing. Zombie apocalypse, have to have that. GMOs, this is a big thing for people. You know, GMOs are going to kill us all. Supernova, always possible. The hole in the ozone layer years ago, that was going to kill us. You know, remember back in the day, the baby diapers were going to cause an environmental disaster, and we're all going to, like, I don't know, die from baby diapers or something.
Oh my
The whole, guess what's next on the list, Minnie?
What?
Again, this is created in 2017. Vaccines.
No.
Yes.
Oh.
Nanobots, nanotechnology, unknown space fungus pushing humans into sexual overdrive, causing their genitals to fall off. That's on the list. And then aliens attack. And of course, the last on the list is getting hit by a car, because at the end of the song, suicidal tendencies by, come on. Doesn't matter. I'll probably get hit by a car anyway.
Oh,
it was a punk rock song. God,
I know what you're talking about. I
Yeah.
can't. That's Greg's thing. He knows every band ever. John,
Yes.
listening to this list is 10, maybe 100 times worse than watching the evening news. I mean, we have people now that are telling us, okay, that's it. I'm calling in sick tomorrow to work, Roger Moore. They're jumping on the bandwagon, mind wasting fungus. I mean, we can't leave these people with these.
You know what? I tell you what, though, the one thing about nanobots, nanotechnology, if you've ever read the book, oh come on, the series, it's the series Silo that's on Apple TV. Wool, I can't remember who wrote that series, but absolutely fabulous sci-fi series.
Oh yeah, sci-fi.
Where, you know, nanobots. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
Husker Bob says, I think this will be the it. I need to go. Highlander gun. What about being ate by a growler bear, John? Well, see, I went for the world ending for everybody. Okay, Husker Bob says, what was it? John, can you diagnose Satterfield's brain injury? Why does he think he's qualified? Cannot explain himself nor his system as it is in relation to college football in the Big Ten. I will say one thing about Marcus Satterfield. He hasn't used the line. You know what? When people ask him questions, he hasn't been snarky enough or obnoxious enough to say back to them, have you ever played college football? If no, you wouldn't understand what I told you anyway. And that is kind of sometimes when coaches get really, you know, extremely frustrated and defensive, that's what the line is that they use. I
see.
Okay.
Oh, wow, John.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think your intention with that list of ways the world could end was actually supposed to give us more of a positive outlook, because we don't know what tomorrow holds. Is that right?
I mean, if you're going to be afraid of the future, those are all things you certainly can be afraid with. I never prioritized any of them. And I'll be honest with you, what I understand is the younger generation has a lot of anxiety about global warming. You know, we had a lot of anxiety back in the 80s about nuclear holocaust. We just created really great music to make up for it. So maybe get your ass in gear and create some more great music about global warming. But
quit using AI.
If you look at all these things on this list, they're all reasons to be thankful for today, and you're probably going to wake up tomorrow. And they're all things that people probably they catastrophize about the future. What if this happens? What if that happens? You know?
All right.
And
can we leave on
any of the things on this list? That's the commonality through all of these things on this list. We don't control any of them.
We control just the controllables.
And why, if you don't control things, why would you ever worry about them? Okay, there you go.
Okay, last comment of the evening. Cameron W says we will never win in the Big Ten. Well, you know what I have to say to that, Cameron W? People thought Indiana could never win in the Big Ten either.
There you go. That's a good response. Okay. Phil Spears says, I control whether I watch or not. That is a good point. I mean, if this gets to the point that it's driving you batshit insane, it'd probably be a good idea to just walk away for a while. I did almost, I was about probably 3 minutes to 5 minutes from smashing my TV, which would have upset my wife very much. And, so I got up and I left the room and I pet my dog and I went, boy, it's nice my daughter's here this week. And then I went back downstairs and everybody else left because I thought, why would you people watch this? I kind of have to watch this. Okay, we need to be done now.
All right. Can I say one positive thing about the
Sure.
game? And the guys mentioned it last night, but I'm going to reiterate it. Thomas Fedoni. That guy can make plays. And we didn't know whether or not he'd be able to again after all of his injuries. And he is a playmaker. So that's exciting going forward.
It is. A couple you do have to kind of look at the guy and think, I mean, how many people, tearing one ACL in 1 year and missing a year is one thing and then coming back from it, but have to do it twice. That's some pretty amazing guts from a very young person. I mean, I can tell you right, without any hesitation, at 19 years old, if that had happened to me, I'd have just went, into feel sorry for myself and hope women bought into the whole feel sorry for John too. That's what I would have hoped. And then they would have brought me beer and other things. Okay, we're going to end on that. Good night, Minnie.
Good night, John.